Welcome to this week's deep dive video. So this week, instead of going deeper than we went on Sunday morning, because there was a lot there, instead of going deeper, we're going to actually do a recap, a little refresher later in the week to help remind you of what all we talked about. So I hope this helps, and I hope you weren't too overwhelmed on Sunday, and I hope you were able to go back and reflect on everything we talked about. But in short, we talked about the cost of following Jesus, what it means to follow him, and what that will eventually cost you. Now, this isn't the cost of salvation. Jesus has already paid that for us. So it's not that. But following in him, walking in his steps does have cost. He tells us that to follow him, you have to hate your mother and father, your spouse, your kids. And we talked Sunday, this isn't a literal, you are called to hate them, because he calls you other places to love them, to honor your father and mother. In Ephesians chapter 5, Paul calls us to love our spouses as Christ loved his church. We're not called literally to hate. But this is a literary term we talked about from the Old Testament Jesus is referencing here, and he's saying, look, in contrast, people have to look at your life and see how much you love me, and it has to be as if you hate those other people. Not literally hate them, but you have to love me so much. We also talked Sunday, the fun thing about love is that it's limitless. You don't have to love them less to love him more, but you are called to love him more and more and more. So this is one of the first costs of following Jesus. But we also talked about some other costs. We talked about the other relationships in general in your life have to take a backseat to your relationship with him, that it has to be something perceivable, not only by yourself, but by those around you. Your spouse should know you love Jesus more, that you are pursuing him more. That should be something that your spouse, if your spouse is a believer, is excited about and encourages. We are also told that our will in our lives takes a back seat to God's will in our lives. It's not about our sense of morality and what we want to be the reality or what we perceive as right or wrong. It's what he has laid out for us as right or wrong. We follow him as Lord. So what he says goes. That's how it goes. That's the point of him being Lord in our life. He sets the rules and we follow. Now, the weird thing about Christianity here is you can choose not to follow. You can choose not to obey him as Lord of your life, but that also means rejecting him as Savior in your life. So I want you to have a clear understanding. If you're going to follow him as Savior, it means following him as Lord as well. So putting his will above your own. It's not about what you think to be right or wrong, or what you hope to be right or wrong, or what you wish was right or wrong. It's about doing what he has said is right and staying away from what he has said is wrong. Knowing you will make mistakes along the way, but as we talked Sunday, shooting for perfection. He says, be holy as my Father is holy, or be perfect as my Father is perfect, depending on which gospel you're reading. And this is the call. We are supposed to be shooting for that. We're not going to make it, but we don't sit in our inability to make it, to not make it, and we say, hey, I'm never going to be perfect, so why try? No. That's not what we're called to. We're called to strive for perfection, to try at least and be as holy as he is holy. So the next thing is we are called to look like him. As we step in step with him, as we walk with him, we begin to look more and more like him. And the natural consequence of that is that we will be treated like he was treated. The more we look like Jesus, the more we will be treated like Jesus. And Jesus says, the world will hate you because of me. But he tells his disciples it's not because of anything they're doing other than being more like him. The world hated him first, so we shouldn't be surprised when we say the things Jesus said, or we treat people the way that Jesus treated them, addressing their needs, speaking into their life, loving them, but then calling them to go and sin no more. When we treat people the same way Jesus treated them, we shouldn't be surprised when we're treated like Jesus was treated. I hope this is a good recap of the cost of following Jesus for you. I hope that you have been asking yourself the question, am I willing to follow? I hope you're weighing the cost. If you haven't followed him, that you've weighed it maybe for the first time, that you're sitting there asking, am I willing to endure these things for the hope that lies ahead? As Paul says, the tribulation or the suffering of this present world isn't even worth comparing with the hope and the glory that we have in the next. So you've got to ask yourself, do you believe that? Is this worth the giving up lordship of your life? Is it worth those things? Because if you say, or if you can't make that decision before you jump in, it's going to come time where it does cost you, and you're likely to flounder and fall away, as Jesus describes the builder and the king who didn't weigh the cost beforehand, and how not only was this embarrassing, this was perceivable by those around them, and it cost those around them as well. So I hope you are weighing the cost. If it's for the first time or you've been a follower of Jesus, I hope you ask yourself, are you living a life that reflects the cost of following him? When you look at your life, does your life look like you are paying the cost of following him? And if not, why? What is it in your life that is made your walk with Christ so cheap? That's my question for you the rest of this week. I pray that you're having a great week, and I hope that you join us this Sunday as we continue to talk about what it looks like to follow Jesus. We've talked about all that he's done for us in the Gospels. We've talked about if you believe, the next step is, do I believe the gospel? And then after you believe, you have to understand his mission and vision, because then you're weighing the cost of following him in that mission and vision. And this week is, if you believe, you know what he's about, and you're ready to follow him in that, and you've weighed the cost, and you still say, yes, I'm in. What's next? So I hope you join us for that this Sunday as we dive in and continue to talk about what it looks like to follow Jesus. Have a great week.